G'day guys, Justin here, coming to you with another NBA Player of the Day video, this time backdated video for the 27th of October 2017. Obviously been busy the past couple of days, so I figure I'd get on to you guys now. And my player for the day for the 27th of October 2017 was Karl-Anthony Towns in the Minnesota Timberwolves win over the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, OKC had some high-scoring offense, all three of their stars scoring in 20 points. I believe they actually had four players, and Steven Adams, so four players in 20 points or more, but nonetheless, they just weren't able to get the job done against what were a fast-finishing Minnesota Timberwolves. Karl-Anthony Towns on the game had 33 points, 19 rebounds, and 17 of those offensive. So another 2-to-1 ratio there for defensive and offensive rebounds for a player. He didn't have an assist or a steal, but he did have four good shot blocks. He shot 50% from the field, 25% from deep, which is how a big man really should shoot from deep. Obviously, in the quote modern game, you need to be able to shoot threes. But when you're near 7 foot tall and as big and as skilled as some of these guys are nowadays, and as athletic, you should be able to consistently get to the hoop. And that's not to say they weren't skilled and big before, because they were, and they were very athletic. It's just you see a more predominantly athletic, limber outside player now, which really should translate to better footwork and whatnot, but it doesn't for some reason. 88.9% from the stripe, so pretty accurate. Only the one turnover and 4 fouls in 36 minutes. 4 fouls on 4 blocks. Again, reasonably neutral defensively. But the one turnover screams good, solid ball possession, and really didn't waste his offense. So nonetheless, we'll cut to the chase here, and I do think there are some problems in OKC, which I'll get to shortly. He started off by cutting through the lane to an open dunk, following a screen on Adams by Teague, and the pass from Butler. So an off-ball screen by Jeff Teague and a pass from Jimmy Butler led to the opening basket, which, as I said, was a dunk through an open lane. He then came down the other end of the court and had a block on Roberson, on a Roberson layup attempt, one of the 4 that he had on the game. He then drove down the lane for a layup over Adams off of a Teague pass. Jeff Teague and Drew Holiday working really well with this team, and each one more as the 3 main facilitators. Obviously, someone like a Butler who can drop down and play that one guard for a little bit if they need to as well. Not great, but enough to facilitate the ball, especially with a Rondo still coming in. This team has a lot of... is Rondo in this team? Sorry, I've got confused with another team there. Don't worry about that. But yeah, Teague has been critical to this side and the way they've played and their ball handling. And as I mentioned, Butler been able to drop down as well, and having that good basketball IQ. He then posted up and scored on Westbrook following a defensive rotation of Adams. Westbrook caught out here again. Obviously, it's a bit hard for someone at 6'3" to guard someone near 7 foot in the low block. But he took full advantage of it and he scored. He then had a post up and a pivot into a triple threat position and made a jump shot over Patrick Patterson. Patterson way too big, actually looks fat, not going to lie. Patrick Patterson looks fat and really probably should be doing some more work on his conditioning, because he was in no way shape. I mean, he was in shape, obviously. Don't know what shape it was, but he was in no way, shape or form going to be able to guard Karl-Anthony Towns in this game. And as he just posted him up, turned into the triple threat position in the pivot, from the pivot, because he wasn't going to be able to back him down due to Patterson's size, and just took the jump shot over him, and Patterson made what was a seemingly late contest on it. He then had the block and the rebound on a Westbrook drive. Westbrook really slashed into the hoop in this game, but it was of no avail to some point. He was then fouled by Grant on the drive, and he made both free throws, and he was then held on the baseline by Paul George for 2. George trying to really get in with some sneaky defensive tactics here. As I mentioned, I think he has been exposed as a pretend superstar in this league to a more broader national audience, particularly playing with this OKC team. And I think it's evident, particularly on little things like that. Back in the day when he used to be able to, a few years ago when he used to be able to cover guys like that, no hassle, and just follow them through rather than restrict them like that. I mean, that is some old school stuff, but at the end of the day, you should be able to really guard your man. He was then fouled by Carmelo Anthony on the low block shot attempt, and he made the shot in the end, one attempt. Towns there was an open passing lane straight there. He backed Melo out to the so he was basket side of Mello, and Mello had no choice but to hold him. He then faked. Sorry, he then. Hang on a sec. Where have I gone? Oh, yeah, there it is. He then blocked another Westbrook layup attempt. He was quite good at rim protecting on Westbrook during this game. He then had a pick and roll with Jeff Teague. He rolled from Westbrook and Adams to score over Mello at the rim. A lot of people thought this was a late screen. It was to an extent, but the reason this screen looked bad was simply because Westbrook going low come off of his knee, so it looked like he checked him. Wasn't anything too major. He then faked the pick and roll with Jimmy Butler, dropped into the open lane for an up and over on a late contesting Karl-Anthony. It was just a simple matter of getting into space and no one picking him up. Then had a pick and roll on Russell Westbrook and received a bounce pass from Teague for the layup over Houston. He was fouled on this layup and made the and one. So again, using Teague and taking advantage of his size was really key to this game for Karl-Anthony Towns. He then posted up on Steven Adams about mid-block and then managed to spin baseline and made the finger roll over what was a rotating Houston. A really strange situation to be seeing a guy playing a shot blocking role on a rotating off of a baseline spin that wasn't Steven Adams in this game, which was quite surprising considering OKC really don't have much defensive depth outside of Roberson and the occasion that Paul George tries to play defense now. He then had 2 offensive rebounds following a Jamal Crawford miss. He missed the tip in, grabbed his own shot, and then made the 3-on-1 layup over Felton, Mello, and Patterson. Again, Patterson can't jump over a phone book. Mello hasn't gotten up in years, and Raymond Felton is in a similar shape to Patrick Patterson. I'll let you do the putting the two and two together there. He then had an offensive putback following a Jones missed floater. As I mentioned, the 2-to-1 offensive rebound ratio has really helped these big guys in the past few weeks, and this was no exception for Towns today. On the 27th, I should say. He then had a block on Patterson, who was turned around and spinning jump shot in the lane. I don't know whether he meant to spin or whether it was just his natural gravity moving him in that direction, so to speak. But he got the block there. That was his 4th block for the game. Then had an offensive rebound following a Teague 3. This was the last bucket that he made for the game. He missed the putback, but after that created space and moved out to the open 3 ball after Jimmy Butler drew the attention of the defense inside. He kicked it straight out to him. Steve Adams made a courtesy approach to the ball on what was essentially a late challenge, but he didn't really jump, just stuck his hand up in the air and the ball was nothing but net. So that finished off Karl-Anthony Towns' tremendous game of 33 points, 19 rebounds, 7 offensive, no assists or steals with the 4 blocks, 50% from the field, so an efficient scoring night. 25% from deep to be questioned from. That's probably why he should have kept going inside a little more, particularly as I mentioned with the matchups he was gaining down there on the block and his ability to just use his athleticism and his quickness around these defenders. Not that some of them should really be defending at the moment. You know, they're probably better off standing guard at a Taco Bell, making sure that they get as much food as possible. 88.9% from the foul line, so a great to very great shooting night for the big guy at the foul line. As I mentioned before, 70% is usually a pass mark for big men at the free throw line, and 88.9% is certainly a pass. Only the 1 turnover, so quite an efficient night, and used the ball very well. 4 personal fouls kind of negates the blocks a little bit. So, a mediocre performance there, or an average performance, as you should say, defensively. All in 36 minutes of play to basically have 30 and 20, which was pretty cool to see a young big guy doing that. Towns is starting to assert himself as a potential he probably is top 10 in the league, but he's reaching that point where you can safely say that Karl-Anthony Towns is top 10 in the league. Defense is a little bit to worry about. As I mentioned, the 4 fouls there come with the 4 blocks. It just relates to an average game. But he does have a lot of work to do, whether it be positioning, his ability to guard skilled bigs at times. He had a fairly easy game today, blocking shots with people always cutting to the rim and not really taking the best shot possible. But nonetheless, he got the job done. He was the rim protector for the team. He did what he needed to do. Now, as I mentioned, with the problems coming out of OKC, when you've got 90 possessions, you're trying to get 90 possessions through 3 different guys. You've got an MVP who consistently boasts about posting triple doubles on 38%. You've got another guy in Carmelo Anthony, who's a perennial shot jacker. Again, you saw that at the end of this game where he forced the 3 ball and basically nearly hit the other side of the backboard. That should have been a Russell Westbrook shot. He is the leader of that team, and he really should have taken it. But nonetheless, Melo just took it upon himself to do that. And a Paul George, who's lacking defensively, offensively, and really standing up in games where it matters. He did have 20 points today, but I mean, he wasn't even the standout player for his own side. Whereas when Paul George used to explode between, not explode, but would have a 20-point game, he'd certainly make it crucial that he'd play a good defensive role, or that he'd be the guy that was facilitating the ball. But that's not the case anymore. I mean, as I mentioned, when you're trying to get 90 possessions between 3 guys who absolutely demand the ball but are inefficient with the ball, you're going to have a tough time winning games. Perennially, when you don't have a defender other than Roberson, you're in serious trouble. So I think OKC needs to do a bit more recruiting. Steven Adams is a serviceable big man. He's able to give you 20 points. He's able to give you 10 rebounds when he needs to. I mean, consistently, he's probably a 15 and 8 guy, but he doesn't have the defensive prowess that they need. Patrick Patterson's not going to do anything for them. Raymond Felton's not going to do anything for them. They've got a side that really needs to revamp defensively. I mean, even considering that what they really should have considered in the offseason was not gaining a Paul George or not gaining a Melo who really wanted out of their franchises, but someone who was a consistent defender and someone who could pick up the slack that Westbrook was providing, that Roberson basically had to take all of. So you could give Roberson a bit of a cut there, who could still, focus on his defense while also allowing for Westbrook to maybe gamble a little bit more. Not that that helps when you shoot a low shooting percentage, but nonetheless, to have that extra defensive anchor is more than helpful. Again, guys, that's been me. That's my player of the day for October 27, 2017. Karl-Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves. 33 points, 19 rebounds, 7 of those offensive. No assists or steals with the 4 blocks. 50% from the field, 25% from the stripe. 25% from deep and 88.9% from the stripe. 1 turnover, 4 fouls in 36 minutes of play. Thank you very much for checking out the video. Hit that like button, subscribe. Let me know who your player of the day was. Again, any feedback is appreciated. Check out my channel for my other players of the day. And, hit me up on Twitter, Justin_J_Bryan. Always talking hoops, always talking sport, always talking anything related to the NBA or whatever's going on in the world, really. So, again, if you're up for a conversation or you just want to leave me feedback or anything, really, just hit me up on there, or, again, the comment section is always helpful. Thanks again, guys. So once again, player of the day for October 27th, 2017, Karl-Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves in a win versus the Oklahoma City Thunder.